to help with property tax. But it's not something I can just ask the legislature, hey, cut the millage, do this, do that, because they don't have constitutional authority to do the local taxes. That is your counties and your cities. So what we're going to do is we're going to place a question on the ballot that is going to allow Floridians to be able to vote themselves relief from property tax. And as I said, my vision is, if you own your home, to truly own it, you have to own it free and clear of the government. You shouldn't have to pay rent to the government. And, there'll be people that are, buying investment properties, like, fine, like, that's different. There's differences, but your personal home, we really believe should not be subject to tax. It's an unrealized gain. And I'm just one that's like, if you tax me at point of sale, like I buy a car and I pay a sales tax on it, but like for me to then just, pay a tax on the value every now, cars usually when you drive them off the lot go down. Now during COVID, the cars actually went up in value. You'd buy a car, there was such a shortage that you could drive it off the lot and then you could even flip it for $5,000-$10,000 profit because there was such a rush to buy vehicles. But that's our vision. So. And of course, so what do people say? Oh, that can't be done. You can't do that. And my question is why can't it be done? Look, the first place we went to with these audits was Broward County, Florida. They got 1.9 million people. They've had no net population growth over the last 5 years. Their budget's increased 60%.
Hi, hello, what's up? Navigator here. Today we'll be talking about how the great state of Florida is doing everything they can to do, which basically what every state in this country did before World War II, and eliminate property tax. And if you're wondering, how is it that we lived off of that? Simple, tariffs. Yes, I know a lot of people don't know what tariffs are. Well, it's simple. A tariff, you're taxing another country to sell their stuff here. And and it's really that simple. And it's not a tax on the people here because everyone wants a part of our markets. That's just a fact. I remember a few months ago, a lot of people who don't know anything about the economy, Democrats, socialists, communists, people who don't know anything about money, people who never run a business except for just taking other people's money, went on everywhere, online, on TV, and said like how terrorists were going to hunt the country, even though we know for a fact that every country used terrorists against us, but we can't use terrorists against them. Yeah, that's just stupid. And because of that, and that surplus of money the U.S. is going to get, some governors, well, the smart ones, not a Democrat. You will never see a Democrat ever do this. You will never see a Democrat saying, oh, we need to get rid of taxes. No. They believe in increasing taxes because they need it to pay for their socialism. Yeah. And with states like Texas, Florida, North Carolina, hopefully, they're moving forward to get rid of theirs because they know that is why people will go to their states more. Yeah, no one wants to live in a high-tax state like California, New York, or any blue state or blue city. Especially when you know for a fact the taxes aren't even going to the city. It's going to socialist programs, which don't really work or help out the people. I mean, if they did, the people would have not lost their homes in that fire in California. But you vote for that. And because of that, DeSantis is doubling down on that. Take a look.
If you've got no income tax, you're cutting property taxes, possibly eliminating them. Where are you getting the money to fund government and everything else, all the other services?
Well, so, we're focusing on homestead. Obviously, they tax property that are non-homestead residential, Airbnb, Canadian snowbirds, commercial. That's a lot of money that they have. And so even if we eliminated homestead revenue entirely, that would just put their budgets back to like 2021, 2022 levels. But we're phasing it in, so it's a very, I think, manageable process. So I don't think you need to, quote, make up. I think they should start figuring out ways to change their spending so that taxpayers benefit. However, in our proposal, because we have surplus at the state level, we are creating a fund that will be able to issue grants to local governments. So if you really say, you know, you need help with a fire or sheriff's department or education, we'll have grants that we're going to be able to do that for this period. But what's going to happen is this is going to increase the economic base of all these local areas because people are going to have more money in their pocket. They are going to start getting more revenue from existing taxes without having to add new taxes, and they're going to end up in a very stable situation very shortly. And not even going to need this state money. But what they're not going to be able to do is go from $60 billion in revenue to $83 billion over the next 5 years. We can't afford that to happen. So it really represents a big, I think, benefit to the taxpayer, but it does represent a spending restraint on local governments. I mean, look, we've had inflation, we've had population growth, but look at Florida's state budget. We're doing massive things. Everglades restoration is the largest environmental restoration in the history of the U.S. Massive infrastructure investments, increasing teacher pay. We're doing all of that, and yet we're still reducing our overall budget. So it can be done. And I'm not saying $32 billion, even if you assume they were spending everything right, it would have gone up because of inflation, but not to $60 billion.
So I mean, this is the classic example.
Represent 4 straight years of spending reductions in the state of Florida, and we're very proud of that. But at the local level, which is where the property tax revenue goes, we've gone from local governments taking $32 billion in 2019 in taxes to now $60 billion. That's almost 100% increase in revenue. And look, part of it is people have moved here. Part of it is that property values have gone up. But homeowners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so that's our vision. That represents about 30% of the overall property tax revenue because they still tax investment property, commercial property. And so this ballot measure will do an opening salvo of raising it, the exemption to $250, adjusted for inflation, so they can't play games. That will be 60% of Florida homesteaders tax-free. Then as they raise it, the legislature will be able to raise that and have a process to do that. Once you get to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of homeowners, and then on it goes from there. But if we don't give homeowners relief, Maria, by 2032, they're going to be taking in $83 billion. So that would mean $32 billion in 2019. 13 years later, it goes to $83 billion. That is not sustainable. And so this is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank.
Yeah, and that is really awesome when you think about it. They have so much money that, that's why they're getting rid of taxes. Unlike California, New York, Chicago, they're running out of money. A, because they lost USAID, and B, and here's the thing. If you live in a blue state, here's a fact. They're never going to get rid of taxes. They're just going to keep increasing them over and over and over. You're already seeing it. Look at that whole tax the rich thing, and from that socialist creature thing in New York, that mongrel, that's the mayor. They're already starting to find out that whole tax the rich, that just means tax everybody. Because the rich will leave, and they already have. They left for Florida, and you're still with that stupid socialism never works. And it didn't take long for Florida to call a special session to go ahead and start with it, which will be historic, and other states will copy. Not the blue states. But here's the thing. If you're in a blue state and you want to try to win a primary race, they say that you'll get rid of taxes. That's it. That's a policy that every Democrat will hate everywhere. But the people will love it because they're tired of it. They're tired of having their money stolen and for it to never really get back into it. If the Palisade fires didn't happen, people in California wouldn't almost be going for a Republican governor and mayor of LA because they know how corrupt the Democrats are. And how much money they steal from them. They're tired of having their wallets burned out. And DeSantis is actually smart for this.
That we are going to work with the legislature on to be on the ballot will begin with an initial raising of the homestead limit to $250,000 for all Florida homesteaders, with then the legislature commanded to enact a schedule that will lead to the full elimination of the homestead limit. Now, why this is something that I think will be very strong and I think something that will be meaningful, a $250,000 limit, that eliminates property tax for 60% of Florida homeowners. Once you put a schedule in, and this would be something that we'd work with the legislature on after the vote is taken in November if it's successful, when you raise to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of all Florida residents would be tax-free. I think this bottom-up approach is a better approach. There have been some proposals where, every homestead, they take 2/3 off every homestead or however they do it. And the problem with that, just to me, is, even someone owns a $200,000 house isn't going to have eliminated. They're still going to be paying property tax. Someone has a $200 million home, they're going to get this massive. I'd rather focus on folks who are new homeowners, young people, seniors on fixed income, our middle-class folks. And so this will be really significant. Now, why do it that way? Well, one, you got to pass it. Two, it's a way to be able to make this a smooth transition to where people aren't going to say, oh, you're not going to be able to have money for services. You're going to be able to do it. And I'll talk a little bit about other things we're going to do to ensure that. So this is something that can actually get done. I think it could be meaningful. Right off the bat, 60%, do nothing. Everyone else is still getting a massive tax cut. And then pretty soon, you're going to end up having over 90% of Florida homeowners for sure. And then as you go up, obviously you sweep more people in. But that's just something really significant, that 92% of the people in this state who own a home and are homesteaded, would not have property tax just by getting the exemption up to that level. That's something that's really, really meaningful. And those are the people that I really, really want to help. Because we've seen all the things that have been difficult in the economy in terms of the America's inflationary spiral since COVID, and it's tough. And people see all this inflation accumulates in terms of compounding, and so we want to be able to do. So those are the folks I think it's going to really make a difference of. Now, what the proposal will also do is constitutionally say, okay, local governments, you get all this residential property tax from the non-homestead and from the commercial. We'll always say that if you cut property tax, that people aren't going to have police or all this. So here's the thing. That revenue can only be used for schools, for police, for fire, first, and the core services that we all agree on. It's not going to be allowed to be used on some of the other things that I know are a little bit more divisive in terms of whether they're going to do. So that actually ensures that that money that is being taken, that's still an awful lot. That's still going to be, under this proposal, that'll be more than $50 billion. It'll be over 50, 55 billion, somewhere like that. They're still getting a lot of money, way more than what they got just 7 years ago, tens of billions of dollars more. And obviously, that will phase down from the homestead, but it will also go up as the economy expands, as more people buy second homes and the snowbird. Here's the thing. Tax someone rich. If some billionaire from Brazil is buying tax them. Good.
Yeah, but here's a theory I have. Well, not even a theory. It's happening right now. Here's a fact that's going to be happening the next 5 years, 15. The blue states will be emptied out. They will have they're having nothing more than people who aren't supposed to be there and lazy socialists. Both don't pay any tax money, really. And all the innovation, all the jobs, all the money will be going to the South, which is a good thing, really, because let's be honest, the blue states and blue cities, they're anti-business. They're the most high tax. They're the most high crime. You just can't live there. It's impossible. And with the socialism and how they want to force everyone to do something they don't want, that don't help either. So yeah, the blue states are going to be emptied out. They're going to lose all their money, meaning they're going to lose a lot of leverage. And the red states are going to get a huge surplus. Good thing USAID was cut off too, because they can't steal our tax money anymore like that either here. And to end this off, I'm going to go through the Bible with a passage that really makes sense. Matthew 22:20. 18. But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, "Why do you test me, you hypocrites? Show me tax money." So they brought him a denarius, and he said to them, "Whose image and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar." And he said to them, render therefore to Caesars things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. Thank you. This has been Navigator Podcast. Have a nice day and come back again soon.